Right, so now we know that transition uses a state to do the transitions. So CSS Transitions follows the same idea. So I'm going to go to CSS Transitions, and right here we get just the text. So we're going to be needing the same thing that we did before, the state and this show div function. So I'm going to copy all of this, going to copy and then paste it right here. Okay, I made a mistake with the name, but that's fine. Just leave it at fade. Okay, so what else do we gonna need? We have the function, and we're gonna need the button that is gonna be changing the state. So I'm gonna copy the button, I'm gonna delete CSS Transitions, and paste the button at the bottom. Okay, so we get it. Good. So now we need to import, and we're gonna import something else. It's gonna be import, and the name is gonna be CSS, just like that, CSS all in caps, and then transition. And no, it's different than the other one. The other one is called transition. Okay, so this one is going to be from, and then React dash transition, and then group. Very good. Remember, notice that right here we don't have a /, just React transitions group. Good. So now, just like we did before, we need to wrap everything inside this element. So CSS transition, open and close. And for now, I'm gonna just show a div. I'm gonna print a div. Okay, so we get hello, and of course nothing else. It's not working. So with transitions, what we get a function that has a state, and then we use the state to change the class names. Now with CSS Transitions, this one is gonna work in kind of a different way. At the first, we get the same options than before. We have the in, which is going to be equal to that state, and then show. And then, of course, we have the timeout, which is going to be 5 seconds. I know it's a long time, but it's going to make sense in a minute. I'm going to put 5 seconds. So the next option, and of course, with CSS Transitions, is going to be required, is going to be called class names. I'm going to say class names, and notice that this one, it's plural. So with this one, I'm going to be using a class. I'm going to give it a class. So what CSS Transition is going to do is going to use this class to append the classes inside our div. And it's going to do it for us. There's no need to grab the state and do the class ourselves. It's going to do it automatically. So, okay, so this one is done. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to go right here. I'm going to make it bigger. Of course, nothing is going to happen. I'm going to do the inspect. Gonna reload the page again and select that hello. So for now, we don't have anything. If I click it, notice that we get square exit and square exit active, and then it's gonna be deleting that. So it's appending the classes for us. And if I do show or click hide, it's gonna do square enter and square enter active. So this is the class that we are getting. So CSS Transitions is grabbing this square class that we passed inside class names, and it's gonna append the square, and it's gonna add the dash enter and the active as well. Okay, it kind of makes sense. Kind of confusing, but it makes sense. So now we have the state of when the element it's entering or it's active while it's entering. Now the thing is that we have a tiny problem. Whenever we have the div, if you want to reproduce the same example right here, we don't have a class that is going to be saying that this div it's red. We get no class at all. So what we can do, we can add a class name manually. It's going to say class name is going to be equal to something. So first, I'm going to be adding the class square, and then I need to know when the element it's visible or not. If you notice right here, after the transition is done, it's going to be deleting the classes, the state. We don't get anything. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a reference of the state. We have true or false. It's going to be this state that show. So now let me reload the page. The element is going to be right here, and notice that it's grabbing the classes from this one, from square. I'm going to go right here. It's going to say square true. So we have the class square, and we have true because the element it's visible. So if I click it, it's going to be adding the false and the square exit and the square exit active. And then of course it goes back to square false. So it's kind of working. So of course right now nothing is happening. We don't get a transitions because we will need to add the CSS for this. So let's go to app.css and start adding the transitions. Right here, we have the square already, so there's no need to add it. So we're going to say square, and then I'm going to be adding the false, and it's going to be a background of, I don't know, whatever color. Let me do 1, 2, 3, and then 3, a nice orange. And then we're going to be adding the transform, and the transform is going to be translate x and then minus 100%, just like that. Then we have the square true. It's going to be dot square and then that true, open and close. And we're going to be moving the div to the original position. So it's going to be translate x and then 0%. And what else? We are getting the state of square enter and then square enter active. So we can use these states to do something else. So I'm going to say square and then dash enter and then dot and square dash enter dash active. And this one, I'm going to be changing the background to blue. Good. The next one, again, is the same idea. It's going to be the square dot dash exit dot and then square, same thing. Everything is very repetitive. Exit and then active. And this one is going to be background of, I don't know, green. Good. So in theory, this again should be working. We're going to reload the page. We get the red div. If I click it, it's going to exit, and notice that it's using the exit and the square active and it's changing to green. And then it's going to change the state to false. If I click it again, we get green and it's changing to blue because we have the enter and the enter active. And when it's done, it's going to be going to the original state. Remember that we are using 5 seconds for all, and I'm going to be changing this to 2 seconds. It's going to be a little bit faster, just a little bit faster. Either way, 2 seconds, it's a lot of time. So I'm going to show hide. It's going to do it. And if I click it again, it works. All right, so it's real simple. Since we know how this one works, we know how this one is going to work as well. Let me save it again. Okay, so that's good. Let's move to the next video. We're going to be talking about the transitions group, and we're going to be using this tiny little function.